Good to go? All right. I'd like to call to order the Open Space Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Oh, let's just do it. Let's be official. Okay. I'd like to read the land acknowledgement. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jaruji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledged the Wiyot community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. Can we have the roll call, please?
You may in just 1 second. Open faster. Come on, computer. Okay. Excuse me. Commissioner Brenner?
Present.
Commissioner Myers?
May-
Mays?
Here.
Commissioner Hedgecock? Here. Commissioner Sims?
Here.
Commissioner Smoker is not with us tonight, nor are Commissioners Malik or Bareilles.
Okay, thank you very much. So the recommendation is that the oath of office be administered to me for a new commission term. And Jessica will be administering it.
Oh, the fun of reading all the words.
Do I need to stand up?
If you want to. If not, you can sit there and they say hold your hand up, right hand up.
I'll sit and hold my
That works for me. I'm going to say I and you state your name. I
Carol Mays,
do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California and the Charter of the City of Eureka, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter in the capacity of Commissioner for the Open Space, Parks, and Recreation Commission of the City of Eureka.
I agree.
Thank you.
All right. And just to put into the minutes that the oath of office for Melody Malik will be skipped because she isn't present. And also the oath of office for Sarah Smoker, who is not present tonight. All right. The next is the recommendation to approve the minutes from December 4th, 2025, special meeting as submitted. First of all, I do have a correction for the minutes, and that is that Carl's name was spelled incorrectly. Perfect. So let that be noted, that there needs to be that correction to the minutes.
And then I also have a small correction. Sorry. My name is also spelled correctly. It's got only one M in the last name. Thanks.
Okay, commissioners, are there any other questions, corrections, or comments to the minutes? All right.
So whoever
And
makes the motion just has to say with the spelling corrections for names. and
oh,
then
okay,
accept it.
when I do that part. And is there any public comment on this item? Carl, did you want to say anything about your name? Okay. Well, good. We're in the majority here. Okay. And is anybody on Zoom tonight? Just us. Okay. And since there's no public comment, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected? Do I hear?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes as corrected.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, let's vote. Aye.
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 And the motion passes, and so we have approved the minutes as corrected. Okay. Are there any commission reports? And nope. So we'll move to the next agenda item, and that is public comments. Do we have any public comments tonight? Nope. Okay. So next is we have old business. The Carson Park Improvement Project. Robin.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Carson Park Improvement Project, a partnership with the Kiwanis Club of Henderson Center, is ongoing. Most recently, they did have a successful bake sale, and we're actually in the early stages of planning a fairly large fundraiser in May. So we'll be excited to report back about that at our next meeting. So the planning progresses, and we're just looking for any and all folks that want to support the project to help with the fundraising goal. So as always, folks are available to reach out to the Community Services Department if they're interested in supporting the project.
Nice. Okay, commissioners, are there any comments or questions for Robin?
Well, I'll just say that, I live 3 blocks from Carson Park, and I go down there, and people are really enjoying it. I see people playing basketball and all kinds of people on the swings, Jeff. And so, yeah, people are really enjoying it. So I think there's a lot of positive use there. And I think once the new playground's in, it's going to be a great thing. So thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Robin, for that update. And next we have new business. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this. The election of the 2026 Commission Chair and Vice Chair. So the recommendation is to elect a Commission Chair for the 2026 calendar year. So commissioners, are there any nominations for the Commission Chair for 2026?
If I can have a minute, the way most people do is they ask the chair and vice chair if they're okay with continuing. And if they are, somebody can just say,
Oh, okay.
I vote for the status quo.
I'm very okay with continuing. This is fun for me.
It just seems to be a lot easier if we get that part out of
Oh, okay.
the way
Yeah.
first, and then somebody
I-
can just nominate. And are you vice chair?
No, Jack is.
Jack is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we can do that, or you can ask for someone else to be in for vice chair. It doesn't matter.
Last time we elected him in absentia.
That we did.
That's what you get for missing meetings.
Yeah, right. We did. We did. Are there any other nominations for either Commission Chair or Vice Chair? I don't hear anybody make anything. Is there any discussion?
Just, if Jack really doesn't want to, we could retract maybe. But I think he'll do it. And he comes when he can. I know he has a really
Right.
busy work schedule and such. So let's
Okay.
elect him and hope for the best.
It's not like we haven't done it before. Okay, public comment? And no public comment. So is there a motion for Chair and Vice Chair?
Sure, I'll move that we elect Carol Mays as the chair for the next term and also reappoint Jack Bareilles as the vice chair for OSBCR.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, please vote. Can I vote for myself? Okay.
Aye.
Aye. And no opposed. So the motion passes. So the commission chair for 2026 is me, Carol Mays, and the commission vice chair is Jack Bareilles, who is not with us tonight, but we will congratulate him next meeting. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. We have time for next is the McKay Community Forest Advisory Group, Open Space Parks and Rec Commission alternate liaison. And the way that works, I am a liaison to that group, and then the second liaison also participates fully in the group. And so the recommendation is to select an alternative liaison for that group. Is anyone interested in being the alternative liaison?
I will do it if nobody else is dying to. I'm interested and I'm glad to do it, but if either one of you would like to, I would hear that,
I could do it, but if you're interested, I think you go for it.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion? Oh, and I wanted to say, and I've already told her this, but I'll put this into the record. So the meeting, the group meets quarterly at the Adorney Center from 3:30 to 5, and usually on a Tuesday. Any more discussion?
Well, just that you think it's the second Tuesday, and that'd be fine.
Yes,
I have a standing
definitely.
meeting from 3 to 5 on first Tuesdays. So if it were to turn out that changed, I wouldn't be able to do this. But if it's second Tuesday,
Second or third,
second,
yeah.
really second, third, or fourth, I can probably
Okay.
be fine.
And is there any public comment on this item? And so, commissioners, is there a motion for an alternate liaison being Barbara?
Yeah, I'll motion for Barbara to be the alternate liaison.
And I'll second it.
Okay. Turn on your
I
mic.
will second it.
Okay, let's vote. Aye for, vote
Aye.
for Barbara to be the
Aye.
alternate liaison. So, the motion passes and the alternate, Osprey liaison for the McKay Community Forest Advisory Group is Barbara, what's your last name? Brenner. Okay. All right, next on the agenda, we have the Sequoia Park Playground Fund disbursement approval. Robin.
Thank you. So I'll start with a little background to catch us up on why this request is coming to tonight. So the city of Eureka had set up a fund at the Humboldt Area Foundation specifically for the Sequoia Park Playground Improvement Project. And when that fund was set up, it did require an advisory body, which was determined to be the Open Space Parks and Recreation Commission. So in order to utilize funds from that account, we do need this commission's approval. And this is actually our first request to date. And the reason is we are looking for a small contract with a landscape architect who can help get us to a schematic design of the playground. And what that will do will get us far enough in design to really have more concrete numbers and actually identify the specific equipment we're going to buy. And that will then really inform the fundraising campaign, because right now we have a concept and a rough budget, but we really need to be a little more concrete. We don't want to be asking folks for donations without a solid plan. And if we are going to pitch what the playground's going to look like, we want to be sure it'll actually look like that. So we need the professional help to really take those next minor steps. And that is what the request is $20,000 from the fund for a landscape architect. The balance is at $38,000 right now. It does gain interest. There are also fees by Humboldt Area Foundation, and we are pending an extra $4,000 coming from the Ice Bowl. The local disc golf club annually holds a fundraiser at Sequoia Park, and we receive a portion of the funds to the Sequoia Park Playground Improvement Project. So staff does recommend that this is a really good step to move the project forward, and that is what the funds are intended for. So I will pause there, and I imagine you might have some questions or discussion.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I guess my question would be, would the landscape architect would be necessary either way, right? Whether it's now or after fundraising has been, done, right?
Yeah, so we will still need a landscape architect for the full design. That could be a couple $100,000. So we need to take the first couple steps with the landscape architect to start the fundraising campaign. And we don't have the exact amount determined right now, but I imagine at some point along in the fundraising, when we have a significant amount of money, we might want to talk about going into the full design process. Just for a comparison, the Dayas Park Improvement Project, that landscape architect contract was about $450,000. And that creates the full construction documents. So that is the construction documents that then the contractor builds from. It's often kind of a hidden part of capital improvement projects is all that technical design work that happens. I don't have an exact number for what the design cost would be for this project, but that actually will find that out through this small contract. And we are going with the landscape architect who designed Dayas, Melton Design Group. They do have an on-call contract with the city, so they are within our procurement policy and contracted to do work for the city. So we're all good on that side of things.
That was going to be my question, is who was the landscape architect? Any other questions? Is there any public comment about this matter? Okay.
I guess, I'm sorry, I do have another question.
Yeah.
So, sorry, clarify this for me. What is the difference between doing it now? It's just less, this landscape architecture thing would be like less formal documents, less, just more of a solidifying the rough plan?
Yeah, I can definitely clarify that. So right now, all we have is a concept. We know we want a treehouse adventure playground in the upper meadow. We know we're going to need pathways, ADA access, some improvements to the turf that's pretty compacted. So that's conceptual. So what we're going to be doing in this next step is one, we are going to be getting a topographical study of the park to actually have the terrain known and all of the utilities. And then what we can do is work with a playground company to select a playground that matches the concept we've been chasing. And then the landscape architect can, one, make sure it fits in our space. They can also start calculating what are the costs to put this playground in. So maybe you buy a playground from a company for a couple $100,000. There's still a lot more work to be done before that playground can go in. You got to get the site ready, dig it up, prepare the subgrade, any of the walkways. So we'll get far enough along. We'll have a cost estimate for the concept, but what we won't have at this point with this proposal is construction documents to build off of. That would be the next step. Would be the construction document process. So we will not have those through this. We will have a schematic design, which is kind of a stepping stone between concept and construction. Schematic is fit to the space, and you kind of know the land and what you can do there. But again, we don't have the actual, I call them in layman's terms like blueprints, and that's what we won't have through this process yet. But it will allow us to be able to really truly know how much money do we need to build this park. And then we'll be able to have solid images from the playground vendor of what we're actually going to do. So as an example, we had the egret renderings from the playground vendor for Dayas a couple years before we built it. And I remember hearing a lot of commentary when the playground went in that people said, wow, they literally put in exactly what they said they were going to do. So that's what we're trying to do with this. We want to put a concept out of a playground that's kind of digitally rendered, and then a couple years later, you'll be at the park and it will be exactly that. And that is what we're trying to do here, is get far enough along to have that and know that.
It'll be very beneficial to our fundraising efforts when we're getting more specific. There's going to be swings, and it's going to look like this. It's going to be these materials. And so when we're finding donors, we have a much more better concept with better imagery rather than like a painted picture, of some artist rendering. And, it'll have, like Robin said, it'll be a drawing, but then it'll be a pullout of like what this piece of equipment will look like generally. And then that gives us spatial awareness, and then we can add in the other important things, the sidewalks, the pathways, the drinking fountains, the access, the parking, and things like that. So it just makes a really much nicer picture for us to sell to the public too.
I have a question. So, and I don't know if you had already said this and I missed it. So are the funds that are at Humboldt Area Foundation, I think you said 38,000, something like that. Was that as a result of fundraising?
Yeah, it was a mixture of the two. So quite a few years ago, the fund was set up, and there's a minimum of $10,000 to set up a fund. And I feel so embarrassed I don't have the correct information right now, but both Old Town Rotary Club of Eureka and Redwood Capital Bank made initial donations. One provided the initial public input process and concept, and then the other donation went to Humboldt Area Foundation. I can't remember which was which, so let's give them both credit that Redwood Capital Bank and Old Town Club of Rotary kickstarted this project with us due to those donations. So that was the origin of the 10,000. And since then, there's been a bit of fundraising. We haven't done anything super specific to mention other than over the years, money has trickled in from the Ice Bowl annual event. We do get some monthly donations from folks. But we are trying to kickstart a true fundraising campaign, which is why we want to take this step with the landscape architect to have our ducks in a row. Because if you're going to go sit down with someone and ask for a lot of money, you want to have a very concrete plan. And that is where we're finally realizing we got to get a professional on board to take that next step.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that means that the funds that are at Humboldt Area Foundation, they're not restricted to they're allowed to be used for this purpose, for the
Yes.
landscape architect.
It is for the brand new playground. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Those were my questions. Any other questions?
Since the whole thing, realize, I don't think I understood the cost of a playground. How much did the one that you just finished, what was its, a rough idea of how much money we're talking about?
Yeah. You know, that is a hard question to answer because there's so many hidden costs.
Yes.
But the egret structure, which was custom and very large, I believe was roughly 400,000. And then all the additional play equipment around it, roughly 150 off the top of my head. And then that rubber surfacing is a pretty penny. I believe that was to the tune of 200,000 for all that rubber surfacing. But then there's all these other costs that are hidden, is the contractor getting that earth ready. They had to dig up the ground and grade it to the right slopes. That rubber has special subsurface. They had to put all this like base aggregate down that the rubber goes down on. There was some drainage required that is under the concrete you can't see. There's the concrete walkways itself. So it's definitely hard to put a true number on it, but I hope that paints a picture for you. And we were just so lucky to have a grant that could fund a playground of that nature. So as we go through this design process, we're going to try to balance something truly beautiful for the park, but also balance the expectations of our fundraising campaign. So we're going to try to have our cake and eat it too. We're going to try to make a cool playground and really honor this park, but try to keep the numbers reasonable so that we have an achievable fundraising target too.
Okay.
And then, sorry.
on.
And then do you have plans for a fundraising campaign? Like, can you speak about that? Or
Yeah. The major tenets of the plan will be one-on-one direct asks to local businesses and individuals. We'll also be looking at hosting fundraisers, which we're going to kind of pilot that with Carson Park in May. And if that's successful, I think our department's going to kind of get into the fundraiser event world, which we've done a little bit over the years, but nothing consistent. So we're trying to build up that expertise in-house. And then we're going to try to do smaller campaigns to just regular individuals who maybe can't cut a big check, but might be interested in like a recurring $10 donation a month. But once you get 50, 100 people to do that, it adds up fast. So those are kind of the three major things. There's one more element we've talked about a lot, but it's kind of more long-term, which is estate planning. So the Grace Martin Memorial Park was an estate. You plan for your passing, you'll have an estate, and then you decide how you want that spent. So a lot of other cities do have like full-on programs for estate planning to support city efforts. So while we think that could help Sequoia Park, that might not be the short-term fundraising goal, but it is a goal of our department to try to just make an estate planning platform. And it doesn't have to be for parks specifically, even though that's kind of in our mind. So that is definitely a newer concept that Jeff's really been pushing for, that would be very doable and honestly probably very successful. We get a lot of calls about memorial benches. So it's very common that when folks are near end of life or a loved one is near end of life, they want to honor them in a way publicly. And there's a desire for that. And then there's a need on our end. So we're really trying to work on that, but it's not very fleshed out yet, other than we know it's an opportunity. Yeah.
I think we're going to experience this with the Grace Martin Memorial Park and telling that story. We've already started telling the story when people see it come to fruition and how it happened. And like, hey, I want to do something like that for myself or for my father or whatnot. And we'll tell that story as we go. And it's just on a smaller scale that this project would be on. But it's a good example of the philanthropy and the legacy type things that people are interested in here. We have a very generous community, and I think it will be something that will be good for our future too.
One other thing we've discussed that I think we'll be able to achieve in this small design contract is some sort of like buy a brick kind of thing. It doesn't have to be a brick. There's all sorts of options out there like mosaics or a tile, so that you can make a small donation and then you get your name in some area of the park. We haven't got far enough with that yet because we don't want to sell you something and say your name will be on it, but we don't know how we're actually going to install it. So that's where we need an expert to be like, okay, like you can put a pathway here and use this type of brick and sell these bricks and it'll actually look like that. So again, we need to know what we're selling and be confident upon installation, it will be what we sold it as. But we've all been talking about that concept too, and we've run that by the landscape architect that we'd like to try to identify that in this process. So that is another kind of fun thing. Like, I would honestly love to do that. A couple $100 and my name's in a park. I think that's fun. So
People walking all over your name. Well, Robin, it's great because you just have so much information to, let us know about. Is there any way, I'm thinking since Sequoia Park is right there by the zoo, if there would be any way that you could do, some kind of fundraising event through the zoo?
Yeah. We love the zoo. It has so much opportunity there. So it's definitely on the list, whether it's Sequoia Park Swag in the gift shop that promotes, goes to the fund,
Good idea.
some sort of fundraiser at the zoo. We know how much folks have historically loved the fundraisers that the zoo has put on for their own funding. And since we are the zoo and the zoo is us, that is always available. Yeah.
Good. Any other questions? All right. So, commissioners, is there a motion to authorize city staff to utilize up to $20,000 from the Sequoia Park Playground Improvement Fund at Humboldt Area Foundation to hire a landscape architect to create a schematic design plan for Upper Meadow Playground improvements? And I don't expect you to be able to repeat all of that in your motion. Oh, I didn't open it. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment? Okay, no public comment. I'm not going to reread that motion. Is there a motion? You can just say, I move
Sure,
to
I'll
what you
move.
just said.
I'll move that $20,000 can be used from the Humboldt Area Foundation for the landscape architect at Sequoia Park.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes, and so the city staff is authorized.
Thank you.
Okay. And thank you so much for all that information. Okay, now we're going to have reports, and so the McKay Community Forest Advisory Group, and I have a report. We met, I think it was sometime in December, we had a meeting, and one of the topics for our meeting was benches in the McKay Community Forest. And so we were shown a number of different styles of benches. I didn't know there's that many choices out there from all different examples of some local benches at different venues here, but also different style of benches being used in Oregon. And there are some local bench makers that our group is interested in contacting and possibly try to have, a local bench maker be providing these benches. We also considered whether we should go all metal. We discussed there's a lot of upkeep, as you would know, about benches. So, yes, it's nice to have all wood benches, but that requires a certain level of maintenance compared to metal benches. So we considered that. And we also considered the idea that some benches have the metal, kind of like an armrest in the middle of the bench to keep people from napping, I guess. And so we did consider that because that is an issue in the McKay Forest, is to, have those benches be used by the people that are, trying to enjoy the trails. And so we made some decisions just to keep, investigating which benches would be best. Then also, there's going to be the bridge for the Harris Street Gulch. The next construction season, there will be eventually a designated trailhead on Harris, but now we have to wait for, spring and summer. There's going to be a pedestrian bridge at Northridge. That's being planned. There's no timber harvest in 2026. but there is some restoration for the fish habitat on Ryan Creek. And then there was a presentation on spotted owls that was very fascinating about how the barn owls in the McKay Community Forest are bullying the spotted owls. And so they compete with the spotted owls' habitat. And so Green Diamond is removing barn owls from the landscape so that the spotted owls will come back once the barn owls are removed. And because they haven't seen spotted owls in the McKay Community Forest for a number of years now. And so that was a really well done presentation. And otherwise, that's all I have to report. So are there any comments?
Oh, just
question?
I've heard that is it spotted owls that have gone like extinct in Washington and Oregon, and they're getting pushed out here as well.
Oh, that I don't remember that detail.
Okay.
Does anybody have any information about that? I don't know. But yeah, so
They're certainly threatened, and fewer and fewer of them. And the barred owls, they're running them out of their habitat. It is controversial because
It's
they kill the barred owls. It's
Right.
not like catch and release somewhere else.
that's true.
But it appears that it's it's necessary, and a fair amount of it's going on down in Mendocino County and some places like that.
Okay, and
Carol, I had a question.
sure.
You don't happen to remember your short list of local bench vendors, do you?
I could look it up.
Okay.
And I will email you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah. I know one of them, he's in Arcata, if I remember right. And Dennis has that information as well, so I could email Dennis.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. Let me write myself a note. Okay, and so if there's no other comments. Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you remember who gave the presentation on the barred owls and the?
He works for the county. And in fact, he's like a scientist for the county, except that I think that was one of his last official duties because I think he's moving on to another job, but I will email you. Pardon?
Was he a younger guy? or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
So you might already know him, and it was really well done presentation. Very informative. Okay, so upcoming volunteer opportunities, Robin.
Commissioners, I'd like to make a suggestion since we have one commissioner that needs to leave and we have one more item to vote on. If we could
Yes.
move forward to the acceptance or vote on the revenue summaries prior to that. And then we can come back to the reports.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The recommendation is to accept the revenue reports. Are there any questions or comments from the commission on the recreation revenue reports?
Just that you're crushing it again, like really bringing in more revenue than expected, the way I could or anticipated. So that all looks good.
Anyone else? A public comment on the revenue report. Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the November and December 2025 revenue reports?
Sure, I'll move to accept the November and December 2025 revenue reports.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, please vote. Aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
the motion passes, and so we have accepted the revenue reports. Thank you, Jeff, for bringing that up. Okay, now we will go back to the upcoming volunteer opportunities. Robin?
Yeah, tonight actually we've invited Carl here to provide a presentation on his volunteer efforts at Cooper Gulch and share some more information about his greater goals in the area with other agencies as well. So I'd like to invite him up, and I believe we have a PowerPoint for Derek to pull up as well. Carl, I think you can probably just say next slide, please, in the microphone, and then the powers that be, Oz in the back, will click it forward for
Sounds
you.
good. Yeah.
We can give Carl a little raise.
Where do I do that?
Oh, yes.
The button there.
Yeah, you found it. You found it last time.
It's
Yeah.
above that.
Maybe an arrow. I don't know.
It's two buttons, one up and one down.
No, is it the podium? Is it that?
Oh, yep.
Yay.
Tell me when.
Oh, let's go. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Thanks very much for the opportunity to come speak. I'm Carl Klarner. I'm with RIPE, Redwood Invasive Plant Eradicators. I'm going to tell you what we've been doing in Cooper Gulch Park. Next slide. Okay, cool. So it's part of our core philosophy to have the biggest impact we can, which means going to lots of different sites. We go to a site, do the minimum to have the biggest impact, and then go to another site. But there's so much to do at Cooper Gulch Park that we've been there for a while. And we're also really focusing on fruiting invasive ivy and holly. We've got all kinds of projects. Many are independent of the city of Eureka. So, for example, we go to private residences because there's really bad infestations at a lot of private residences, especially if it backs up to a ravine or something. So we've been to 106 private residences so far doing work. But one project that we do have in conjunction with the city of Eureka is at Cooper Gulch Park. But yeah, the other ones aren't. That other stuff is not in conjunction with the city of Eureka. Next slide. So we put in about 500 hours at Cooper Gulch Park in the last 4 months. We've taken out 91 fruiting holly trees. More on what that means later, like what is a fruiting tree. We've removed about 16,000 pounds of green waste. So about a third of the hours have been from me, 174 hours in the last 4 months. So I go in and then I kind of set things up to make sure that the volunteers' time is best spent. So I'm figuring out what they're going to do and getting everything ready for them. Next slide. And here are some of the volunteers. A lot of times I forget to take pictures. Pretty much every event is just a small group of people between 3 and 10 people. 6 is a good number, though. These are repeat volunteers. They all know what they're doing. They don't have to be told what to do. They're very independent. They know what to expect, so they're very hardworking also. And it's really easy to organize the same people over and over again. So there's about 20 different people who routinely come. And so we kind of rotate through those groups. Next slide. Okay, so what is an invasive plant? So I'm going to take this opportunity to, educate you a little bit, brainwash, indoctrinate, whatever. So an invasive plant is non-native, but more than that, it's harmful. So most non-native plants wouldn't be able to survive in a particular area that they're new to. And then of those that can survive, most are not invasive. So it's just a small proportion of non-native plants that are actually invasive. They cause harm. And one of the big ways that they cause harm is they just propagate out of control. They just expand and expand because nothing's really limiting them. So here's an example of a harm. Insects can't usually eat non-native plants. And so these invasive plants insects can't usually, yeah, I said that right. So the invasive plants are crowding out the native plants. The insects have less to eat. And so it affects the entire ecosystem going up. Next slide. Okay, so here's a picture from Cooper Gulch Park. This is an example of an ivy desert. The ivy just takes over everything and it pushes out the native plants. When you go and when you see the ivy, you always see that there's no bite marks in the leaves. Like the insects have not been eating the leaves. Pretty much when you look at native plants, they've got holes in them because insects have been eating them. And so that's a good example of why native plants are better and invasive plants are so bad. Next slide. Okay, so these are some of the major harms of these two things that we're really concentrating on: English ivy and English holly. So like I said before, they choke out native plants. English ivy is infamous for killing trees. So it'll sometimes literally strangle them. It takes water from them. They act like sails. It especially kills deciduous trees like alder trees, trees that lose their leaves because they can't really compete with the evergreen ivy. So there's places in Cooper Gulch Park with lots and lots of dead trees that have fruiting ivy all over them because presumably they've been killed by that ivy. Hurts water permeation, which is really important to think about with the salmon project. Causes erosion, also relevant to the salmon project. Provides fire ladders, so ivy can help fire get from the forest floor up into the canopy. And ivy destroys structures and infrastructure also. English holly, studies indicate that infestations double in size every 7 years, so you really have to keep on it or it'll just get out of control. It grows vegetatively, so the trees actually send out runners, then they come up, so they form thickets and again, choke out native plants. It also makes it just hard to get around. Hurts water permeation, so at Cooper Gulch Park, you could see the holly roots and the ground around those roots is really impacted and solid, so the water just bounces off of it. The leaves produce a flammable gas when heated, so it's also bad for fire. And there was a lot of holly in Cooper Gulch Park. Next slide. Okay, so we're really focused on propagation because only a small proportion of ivy and a small proportion of holly are producing berries. So ivy generally doesn't produce berries unless it gets up somewhere high, which almost always means a tree. And it takes it quite a while to produce berries even after it's in a tree. And so and then it goes crazy and it just produces tons and tons of berries. Those berries are eaten by the birds, spread all over the place. It's easy to kill in trees. All you got to do is cut around the base. Everything above it dies. English holly also takes quite a while to produce berries. It's not like cotoneaster, which can do it in like three years. Plus, there's male and female trees, so the male trees aren't producing berries. So if you go after the female berry-producing trees, that's a really good strategy to try and limit its propagation. Birds seem to like the English holly more than the ivy also. Next slide. Okay, so these pictures are taken at Eureka High, which is also in the Cooper Gulch watershed. More on that soon. So that's what ivy berries look like. They're dark blue, dark purple. Next slide. These were taken at Cooper Gulch Park, and so that's holly berries. You probably see them on wreaths, Christmas wreaths, holly berries. Next slide. This is one of the days we were focusing on fruiting holly. So we filled the dumpster with branches that had holly berries in it. They don't really pop out like I was kind of hoping they would in the picture, but holly berries look kind of like redcoats to me, like the old movies with the redcoats marching and stuff, but maybe that's just me. Next slide. Next slide, actually. Yeah. So this is ivy infestation in Cooper Gulch Park, and there's several hundred pounds of ivy in that tree. You can see that the liana, or trunk as some people might call it, the ivy liana is really thick when you compare it to the size of a human foot. And then the last slide, the last picture down there is just an after, just showing you what you need to do to girdle the ivy on a tree. So it just takes a few minutes to cut all that ivy off. It takes a little longer to saw through the big trunk, but then you've killed several hundred pounds of ivy real fast. Plus you've stopped it from propagating. Next slide. And hopefully we saved this tree. Okay, so a key concept is the concept of wildlife corridors. So isolation reduces the benefits of restoration projects. So we have this fish project. We want it to be as successful as we can. So native plants feed insects, which in turn feed birds, amphibians, and salmon fry. But if native plants are isolated, insects can't get to them. And so RIPE is trying to target areas both above and below Cooper Gulch Park because it's crucial to expand and connect this wildlife corridor. Next slide. So yeah, it's all about interconnectivity, thinking of ecosystems as these interconnected large things. And even if you restore an area, it's just not going to be successful if it's not connected to other things. Okay, so upstream of Cooper Gulch Park, we've spent about 50 hours in the ravine south of 14th Street. A lot of that's on private properties that we had permission to go into. Then at Eureka High, also with permission, we spent about 150 hours there. That's continuing the Cooper Gulch watershed up there. And then south of Boona, we've spent about 7 hours there. That's around M Street, L Street. There was a big redwood tree there that had ivy all over it. We got that. But that's at the very head of the headwaters of the watershed. On February 1st, Sunday, we're going to have a big event at the Humboldt County Office of Education. So again, that's downstream of Cooper Gulch Park. The salmon are going to have to come through the creek on that property to get to us, to get to Cooper Gulch Park. So yeah, the birds are there's about 50 trees there with really bad ivy infestations. I mean, just unbelievable. There's some pictures there on that flyer. So again, it's super easy to kill that fruiting ivy in trees. If we don't, the birds will eat it, fly into Cooper Gulch Park, and just repropagate it into Cooper Gulch Park. Also, that ivy right next door to Cooper Gulch Park is choking out the native plants and depriving the insects and thus the salmon fry of their food. So that's another reason to do it. We're co-sponsoring this with EPIC, Environmental Protection Information Center. So yeah, that's what we've been up to. Next slide, last slide. And this is just our contact information. We definitely need more volunteers. So would love it if you have questions.
Well, I have comments, and I can't say enough about RIPE and what Carl's done. That right across the alley from my house at the top of Cooper Gulch, it is this tree. It just felt so bad for it. My husband was able to get around the others, but this one was in our neighbor's yard. And I gave him the information, but took that guy a year. And he finally said, one day I just looked at myself in the mirror and said, I'm going to call that guy. And he called Carl, and Carl came out right away. But the lianas on that thing were sort of like the size of my thigh. It was huge. And so, yeah, there we were one day, and my husband came in and said, Carl Klarner's out there, and he's going to help that tree. So thank you. It's a good thing.
Thanks.
And from the upstairs of our house, you can see it died off quick. Yeah. And now you can see sky holes, and the tree's going to live. So
I have a question. There was on one of the slides, it said that the ivy, it acts as a sail. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the amount of ivy in the tree is just crazy. Like there's one study, they had an arborist go down and cut it all down, and they took it all down and they weighed it. It's 2,000 pounds of ivy up there. So yeah, it catches the wind. Like there's stuff, it'll literally, so it grows up the tree, but then it kind of sends like curtains down. And so there's a lot of stuff up there that can catch the wind. And so the wind, it catches in the wind, and if the tree's weakened otherwise, actually, and I told the maintenance people about this, there's a giant alder, which I wish I had a picture of, big alder that had a huge ivy infestation in it. The liana was against the trunk, and the trunk had rotted out behind it. So after we removed the liana, you could see, like, the tree is unsafe, and so they're going to cut the tree down now. They need an arborist to do that. But between that rot in the trunk of the tree and all the ivy weight and and then it can catch the wind. Like if there's a windstorm, it can catch that wind. And then especially if the tree is weakened for other reasons, like water, it's lost water or whatever, because the ivy is taking a lot of water too, then the tree can come over, whereas it wouldn't have gone over otherwise.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure that part out. Any other questions for Carl?
I just have a comment. I think it's just really incredible to see the amount of hours, especially you put in, but all the volunteers. It's really
Thank
wonderful,
you.
really
Yeah.
cool.
It's a great way to get out of the house.
Carl arrives on his bicycle with axes and saws and stuff. Yeah.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to thank Carl for all of his work with the city and elsewhere. You know, with the city, it's like we have invisible lines and city property ends here and it's not our purview. And Carl's like, well, it's an ecosystem. Like birds and invasive species and bugs don't care where the line ends. So he's just got so creative and pulling in all the stakeholders, as you saw from that list. And the city's just really happy to be a part of that stakeholder list. So thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carl.
Thanks.
Good presentation. Did you need to go ahead and stay? Okay. Oh, great,
Are you sure?
I'm not going to do this other thing.
great, great.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go on to Parks Capital Projects. Jeff, please.
Okay. Well, since you're staying, I wanted to shout out that all our swings are back at both locations that we had to take them down for some maintenance. So the basket swing at Sequoia Park, and surprisingly, it was just due to high usage, and the manufacturer, when we reached out to them, let them know we were ordering a new one, they cut us a special deal because they're like, "Oh no, it should last longer than that." But we know the kids love the basket swing, and then when I see like 6 kids on it all at once, that's great. So the basket swing at Phase 1 Sequoia Park is back up. Also, the hardware from the face-to-face swing at Dayas Park, we had an issue with that, and the manufacturer got it to us really quickly. So they're all back up in action, and we've been putting up signage so people don't think like, oh, we took it down or someone stole it, or so we're trying to be informative to the public on those issues. So some highlights from the last month. This week we filed our notice of completion for Dayas Park with exceptions. What that means is that we're very much substantially done with the project. We have a few punch list items that we're going back and forth with the contractor on. Most of those are like some drawings and details and things like that for our future maintenance needs. And so that was approved on Tuesday night, and it's an important piece because it starts a process of closing out the project and legal things like that. There's certain deadlines beyond that we can't let it go past a certain amount of days, and so we were very happy to do that. But this month we also did some work through some private contractors on the park. If you've driven by the ballpark, you might have noticed we got some safety bollards along the alleyway, and several of the bollards are these giant baseballs. They're concrete baseballs. They look really cool. We even put just one extra out in the little plaza there because kids want to sit on it and take their picture. So it serves multi-function of safety for pedestrians and sidewalk use from the cars in the alley. And then you can't like drive into the park through a little crease there on the corner of the alley. But we also had a contractor do some the bollards, and then on the interior of the ballpark, fixing some of the walls and painting. And we got 2 new trash cans. Our park staff has been reporting back to us on like the usage and how many times a day they're going to empty the trash, and it's quite a few. So we added a few more of those nice trash cans and utilized their information on like which ones are filling up faster so that we can position them and opportunities around the picnic area and things like that. And then 2 new interpretive signs are in production right now. We're in the powder coating in Arcata right now, and so then there will have the first 2 interpretive signs, and one is the 2030 club information and history, and that will be coming soon. And then the other is interp on the Wiyot. And so we're excited to get those, and like I said, they're pretty cool. They're custom made locally to look like tree branches, and then it holds the sign. So we're utilizing our local artists and metal workers for that. So Dayas, Grace Martin Park, as we've been talking a lot about, is going to be going to council early next month. So the first meeting in February for an award of a contractor. So we got our bids. We are going to have a project. The bids came in from local companies, all local. And so we did get our low bidder, and it's REO Construction, and we'll be looking forward to awarding that and working with them on a start date. We're looking at April sometime to break ground. And so we need to get through a little bit of this weather, anticipated weather window here. And then the project will move relatively quick. So, and then separate from that, we'll bid the trail restoration work that goes from that park area all the way past the bridge to the foot of T Street. And we're looking forward to that, having that the trail is really bad and lumpy, and there's some tree roots and stuff in there, but we're really looking forward to completing that, as well as a lot of the trail users who make those comments. They're excited too. So I think that is it for my capital stuff. Are there any questions about any of that?
I saw on the city council's agenda that they were doing the, there was a report about the visioning that was done in September of last year, and there was a note there that said one of the projects might be to provide better infrastructure and such for Halverson Park to hold big events. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's kind of very, very conceptual, or a nice to have. But would you comment on that?
Sure. It's come up in with some community forums too. That more of like concert type things, community events. We have a lot. Probably just that we do rentals for over a dozen large scale events, and there's been talk of there is a grant out there that is the Clean California grant, or it's some, don't quote me on that, but it's something, there is a grant out there, and we've been working with some community groups on some concepts for earth mound stage type, but really maintaining the open space and flexibility of that park. And as well as we'll have the Grace Martin that's part of that too, that will enhance a little play area and things for, hopefully it'll be incorporated into their events and such in the amphitheater. But yes, there is some talks. It's very preliminary, but it is something that's come up in visioning. Yeah.
I have a question. You had mentioned garbage cans. How do you prevent people from putting in their, household garbage, using the garbage cans for, their personal garbage?
So we have had a problem with that forever, and more recently, I would say it started on the waterfront. The concept of what we call a bear saver can, where there's a limited capacity of trash you can put in. It's also not an open top or something that's accessible to birds and other critters to get in there and make a mess. If you leave a bag of garbage in your truck anywhere around town, the crows are going to follow you, and so the bear saver cans that were utilized at the park, as well as along the waterfront now, have an opening that's about maybe 10 inches or 12 inches. It limits the amount of garbage you can get in there, or you're sitting there putting multiple loads and not dumping a bag. Yeah. As well, and then there's the whole, the pollution factor of it not getting out, scattered around into the waterways and things like that. So the Bear Saver cans, and it's a brand, and our one of our staff, Hannah Atwood, who's come before, designed the design that's laser cut into the cans at Dayas Park, and the vendor was like so impressed with it. They're like, wow, this is the best thing we've ever made. So we got some kudos there, and thank you, Hannah.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
They made a big difference.
Well, that was a good way to prevent that kind of abuse. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. So since we have already accepted the revenue reports, move on to staff reports. Jeff?
I've got a few things just to cap off the meeting,
Okay.
and I just wanted to let everyone know we're going to be having a event at the Delano Dog Park at the end of the month on January 31st, and we've been working with the community members down at the park and the park users to get more interactive with them and have small scale events, kind of meetups and things like that. So we do have a paw tea. PAWTY in the park, and that's on January 31st from 11 to 1, and it's going to have some like fun crafty themes where dogs do crafts like paw print paintings and things like that we had at our other events, some agility courses, and just opportunity to meet with the community members using the park, and some little prizes and things that were donated by some local business, a Fin and Feather being one, and also partnering with the Sequoia Humane Society. So it's fun. Come on down and bring your doggies. Hoopsters basketball program is kicking off this month. We have a lot of sports starting in late January. Hoopsters program, very popular. We're always looking for volunteers for those programs too, and coaches throughout the year and stuff like that. So if you know anybody, send them our way. Men's basketball league starts this month, also women's volleyball. And then lastly, we had a really great event that was well attended and that was on January 10th. We had a walkthrough of the restoration project with the project managers, and Robin and some other staff were there to guide that. We had over 80 people show up, and they were walking through the restoration areas, getting some information on the daylighting and stream restoration, what's been going on with some of the new plantings and invasive removals. And then we're also this month or early February getting 2 new bridges that span the creek, and there'll be a nice sturdy metal bridge. And currently we have some wood bridges there that they get vandalized and they get overused, and so they're a little sketchy at times, but we're excited to get those in, and we were thrilled to have that many people show up that are interested in Cooper Gulch, and so it was awesome. Thank you.
I've got just
on.
one item. We did host our first repair cafe. The volunteers from Arcata approached us to host it in Eureka, and we did it at the Muni. And over 100 people came. 95 items were repaired, ranging from bicycles to lamps to jewelry to clothing. About 40 volunteers ran the event with just a tad of City of Eureka assistance, but they really have a well-oiled machine. We're looking to try it out at the Adorni Center in March. We had some parking challenges at the Muni, and then I'm hoping to continue to offer them. So it was really great, and we hope that maybe a facility that has some more parking will help the turnout. We were actually expecting about 200, so we had a little more volunteers than were needed actually. So we are really looking forward to making a niche in Eureka for this type of free service like Arcata has been doing.
You know, I attended it for about an hour, and everybody that I talked to really had a great time. They were asking me, where's it going to be? Because my age bracket parking is, a challenge. So, a lot of people were wondering. So the Adorni Center, that'll be great.
Oh, good. Oh, I love hearing that feedback. That's awesome, Jenny. Thank you.
And I share lots of things that happen through City on my Facebook page. And there was a comment from somebody in Switzerland who works with the Repair Cafe over there. It apparently started in Europe.
Yeah.
And they commented how exciting it is to see that it's gone international.
Yeah.
At that point, and the people are still out there doing things like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. We're really proud to be kind of bringing this to Eureka and hoping to make it a regular thing. It's definitely is worthy of it. So we'll definitely be reporting back in the coming months about how this will grow, hopefully. And maybe in a month where we're looking for some presentations, Wendy, the coordinator, maybe she can come and report to you guys about it. So definitely a lot of good stuff coming on this topic, brand new, and hopefully will continue.
one quick question on that. How do you decide what, and how do you find people to provide the repair services, and how do you decide what kinds of things people will want to bring in to be repaired?
Yeah. I just know a little about this learning from Wendy because she's
Okay.
the volunteer coordinator who hosts it. But my understanding is because they've been doing this in Arcata for about a year, she had a pool of people. And then we did a call for volunteers and got an additional pool of people. And I actually just learned from our debrief meeting that there were so many volunteer signups when the slots were full, folks had to be turned away who wanted to volunteer.
Okay.
But I do know the goal of it is it's no larger than something you could carry yourself. Like, don't dolly in a washing machine. That's a little too much. And then I think their major categories, because I got the list, was bicycles, electronics, lamps, computers, appliances, wood and miscellaneous, jewelry, and sewing.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, exactly how they have developed that list, I couldn't say exactly, but it's been working for them. And there's folks out there with that expertise who want to share it for free, which is really cool. All volunteer run, no cost to the folks who want to get stuff repaired. So that concept in general is just very heartwarming that people want to spend their Sunday every other month donating their time and expertise. And yeah, we'll do another call for volunteers for the next one. And maybe it'll be good to have a larger pool of volunteers. They don't get too fatigued. Maybe we can rotate. So if anybody has a specialty in those skills, we would welcome your help. So
And so there's going to be just a little bit of educating the public of what can be repaired, what they can bring.
yeah, that was one of our feedbacks and kind of like marketing and promotion was making sure folks know what to bring. I think she mentioned she was surprised by the bicycle and computer repairs. We had 4 bicycles and 5 computers, and they were expecting more of those items. And they had a lot of volunteers ready for that. So we were talking about trying to target some of those items that had lower turnout and the folks were ready to repair them. Sewing was a hot one, 39 items sewed. They really carried the data on that one. And I actually intended to come get something sewed, but the parking was an issue even for me. So maybe I'll get my leggings sewed at the next one.
I might consider volunteering as a seamstress. We'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you so much for those reports. Really appreciate it. So if there isn't any other things to talk about, it's time to adjourn. Our next regular meeting will be on February 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers at Eureka City Hall. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Carl. That was really great.
Thanks, Carl. That was a good presentation.